No, I love that idea that, a lot of times it's very easy to just think, oh, the API will just help us save time, but it doesn't change the actual process. I love what you're bringing up about how we can reimagine the process. Maybe a lot of those steps that we've just automated are actually not necessary. This could bring us into the idea of like a self-driving network, right? Which I think is on the horizon for some companies, some networks. Welcome to Bits, Bytes, and Beyond, the podcast that takes you beyond the buzzwords and deep into the real-world challenges of moving your data. I'm Trent Blakely, Head of Product Marketing at PCCW Global Console Connect. In each episode, we'll unpack a specific technical subject, break down what's really going on, and explore how to solve it. Whether you're a CIO, a network engineer, or simply the person who always gets asked, is it the network? Then you're in the right place. This isn't thought leadership, it's technical leadership. Now let's get into it. And today my guests are Lawrence Lim, SVP of Software Development at PCCW Global Console Connect, Diego Neto of euNetworks. Diego, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Nice to see you. So my name is Diego Neto. I am Director for Digital Enablement at euNetworks. Just for who is not familiar with the company, euNetworks is a bandwidth infrastructure company based in Europe. I've been with the company, I think a little bit more than 4 years now. And my role at EU is essentially look after the development of our digital strategy. So our portal, our APIs, and all the automation part that is plugged on the back of these systems.
Very nice. Thank you so much for joining us, Diego. Lawrence, do you want to do a quick intro as well?
Sure, my name is Lawrence. I'm the SVP for Product Development and Operations at PCCW Global. I led the research and development activities at the company, driving innovations, exploring emerging technologies, and supporting product evolutions in collaboration with our partners like Diego that we have today.
Excellent. Yes, euNetworks has been a longtime partner of ours. And with today's topic being API, network APIs, we have some interesting engagement with euNetworks specifically, as well as others, that we think might be really interesting for our community. So to set the stage a little bit, everyone's talking about APIs. It seems everyone's got this attitude of, automate all the things, which I love. I think where the rubber hits the road, it can be a little bit challenging to actually make that work. These integrations often take, 3 to 6 months or more to do them properly and test them. We're looking at ways to help speed up that process. We've released this open source tool called Kraken, which I think we'll end up talking about a little bit throughout the course of this conversation. But that's a free open source tool that we built kind of out of the goodness of our heart to really help the industry as a whole. But I think our audience probably wants us to just dig right in. So let's start with this big meaty question of why are APIs and compatibility? Why are they a top criteria for network engineers when they're evaluating network solutions? And let's dig into some real world situations. And I'll give Diego the floor first, and then we'll go to Lawrence.
Yes, thanks for that, Trent. So let's start taking a look at what's going on in the world. We got this really massive increase of complexity with a mix of multi-vendor environment, system that became partially physical, they are actually combining physical equipment and virtual components. And all this really changing and fast-moving landscape is adding a tremendous pressure on our industry and on our engineers that suddenly they are in the position that they need to be able to automate, innovate, adapt. And all this kind of operation that requires the software system that they work with to talk with each other. Machines, the way machines talk with each other is APIs. So at the moment, in this situation, APIs are not anymore something like a nice to have, but it's like a now requirement for any engineer, for any company that want to operate in our industry. And they are called to select a software or design the software. This is a must-have requirement at the moment.
Mm-hmm. To you as an engineer, is that also kind of one of those first things you look for in time you're evaluating solution? You're like, is there an API and is it good?
Absolutely. Now more than ever, I can tell you that even within our own company, we are refreshing a number of software. We are replacing a number of software, and the capacity for a software to interconnect with other software, having a really clear, well-documented API, is really became the number one things you are looking at. Is in a way, it's even more important than what the software can do, which data can store, because with having that gateway, you're actually having the open possibility to, okay, if my software can do it, another software can, and I can just get the output by API. So it's very a fundamental requirement at the moment for anyone who is building a digital system in our industry, or I'd say in this day and time in general, regardless of what you do.
Yep, 100%. Lawrence, what about you?
So true. Right now, nowadays, when we evaluate software or we look at vendors, first thing we look at is their API docs just to see, what kind of functionality. Because UI, they may look very nice, but we want to be able to automate as much as possible. So that means the UIs become secondary. So first thing that we look at usually is looking at the API docs and how flexible it is and how rich it is in order for us to be able to fulfill our requirement. But going back to the relating to the network for us, in our environment, the networks evolve over time and actually at a very fast pace at the moment. Our network within our organization is growing. The numbers of partners that we are working with is also growing as well. And not to mention the number of cloud providers are also growing at a very a very high pace or a very high rate. So API, in this case, actually APIs allows us to future-proof our architecture, making it easier to extend, adapt, and plug into future applications.
Love that scalability. So let's take that a step further into some real world solutions or real world situations. How are we applying these APIs in our everyday engagements with customers or with partners? Diego, do you have a good example that you could speak to?
So I hope we can all agree that we work in an industry that has always worked and it still works in a very traditional way. And sometimes I found this a little bit a paradox because, on one hand, we work with literally the most advanced organization on the planet from the technology point of view. At the moment, we are, I think, someone more than others, or someone is more far ahead than others, but we are all looking at yesterday's and today's problems. The good news is automating the life cycle of a service. At the moment, this is what we are doing, making sure that our product proposition can be digitally and automatically retrieved, advertised over the different channels. You can request a quote, you can place an order, and ideally for the services that are applicable, deliver that service with the cloud-like mindset that is expected by this day and time. So I place an order, I get my service provision. I don't want to wait 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or even more to get my service deployed. The good news is that this is already totally possible. Many organizations are already doing that. I think Console Connect is one of the organizations which is at the forefront of this kind of experience. Some other companies are getting there, but this is where we are focusing at the moment. That being said, as I said, those are yesterday problems, today's problems. Tomorrow's problems are moving once this is solved and when we can have a fully automated experience, start essentially stop using APIs as something to automate what the person is doing and really start using this technology to do something that a person can't. So I'm talking about optimization, intelligent control, making network that are not automated, but that are autonomous, which is similar in terms of work, but it's a very different thing. And I believe so. Those are the kind of from the higher level of challenges we are looking at in our industry.
Right. No, I love that idea that, a lot of times it's very easy to just think, oh, the API will just help us save time, but it doesn't change the actual process. I love what you're bringing up about how we can reimagine the process. Maybe a lot of those steps that we've just automated are actually not necessary. This could bring us into the idea of like a self-driving network, right? Which I think is on the horizon for some companies, some networks. But yeah, what you said earlier about, looking at the entire life cycle, whether it's day 0, day 1, or day 2 of a service, and even broader, right? The entire customer experience of, what does it look like for them to actually shop for a service, buy it, get it, use it, pay for it, and renew it. Ultimately, I think that kind of completes that cycle of most customer journeys, right? Lawrence, how would you weigh in on this?
Completely agree with what has been shared, yeah, because our industry has been around for a long time. And if you undertake computer science at the university, your lecturer probably will tell you that networking is the slowest moving engineering topics among the rest. So definitely agree with what Diego has highlighted. But on our side at Console Connect, one of our biggest constraint is time and capacity. We simply can't integrate with new partners fast enough. And each of the integrations that we undertake often requires customs one-off work due to inconsistent interface or non-standard data formats or payload from various API. This slows us down a lot and ties up very valuable engineering resources on our side. API does help, but we see that not just API, but combining API with standardizations would help reduce the time for us to integrate with our partners, making our work more portable and also enable parallel work streams as well.
I can't agree more on this because sometimes it's really important to give a real meaning of what are we talking about. When we talk about APIs, they are no silver bullet. They are not solutions. API, they are tools. API, they are gateways that allows machines to talk with each other. That's everything they are. You can wrap a lot of fancy word around it, but that is what it is. What's really important is what we decide to do with them and how do we do it. Standardization is fundamental because everyone has the same challenges in our industry. We do all the same things, more or less, with different shades and different approaches. And no one has infinite resources to spend on it. Maybe we can touch it on later about the effort that has been done, that they went in a different direction of standardization. But the reality is that if we define standard, we all work together. This is just going to make everything move faster. And, again, API is a gateway. He defines an interface. I usually describe them as almost as a language. He has a syntax. He has his semantic. Yeah. If we all speak the same, we are all happier.
No, it reminds me of the evolution of the internet, right? Which is a network of networks, right? And it's all very public in that regard, but there's still rules and ground guidelines. And so similarly with private connectivity, it's by nature is starting from a closed standpoint. But I think we're headed towards, I guess, still private, but interoperable between networks. I think that's going to be sort of a new era of connectivity in some ways, like you saying, if we can all reach a similar standard. And this is probably a good place to bring up things like the MEF LSO API standards, now known as Amplify, right? Can we dig into that a little bit more? Lawrence, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the leveraging standardizations will definitely help us reduce time to integrate and make our work portable, enable parallel work streams, and also scale with minimum effort. The challenge that we have right now is that the work that gets carried out has to be sequential, and it takes a lot of time and effort for us to only on our side, but also with our partners as well, that we have to get them involved to clarify on how does the technology works, how does their API works, and also we are working with our partners engineers as well to for integration testing, etc. So all these are very time consuming on both sides. So your standardizations will definitely help, as what Diego has highlighted earlier. It's a common language. Once everyone speaks the common language, as if what we are doing right now, if we all speaks English, then everyone can understand each other, and then we can move on from there much more quickly.
Excellent. Diego, anything you would add?
Yes, if you want to dig a little deeper into the work that MEF has been doing, this is something that for me, it is particularly important as a person who works with these technologies, and also as euNetworks as a company for what we have done. I found the MEF Sonata standard at the beginning of my journey with it. I found something, as I said, he had a lot of good ideas, but they had a number of limitations. Now, the main ones I found, there were first one about the way the product were supported. So I found a standard that was, as I mentioned, very well designed with an envelope and the possibility to actually plug this product configuration into it almost in an agnostic way. Ideally, you could be using MEF Sonata to sell any type of product, not just network services, at least from the way I interpreted the time. But on the other side, the standardized product that MEF was advertising as their own standard payload, the standard product configuration was really small. And this becomes a limitation when you're an organization like euNetworks that sells a number of different products and you want to automate everything. You cannot ask me to implement one API to sell carrier Ethernet and another API to sell a different product. So the good news is that the standard was really designed to be used for this product to be pluggable. So at EU, we started this, we've been a little bit, I say, pioneering this approach, defining our own MEF compliant, but not MEF approved payload. So Sonata compliant payload for different products like Cloud Connect, wavelengths, internet, and this kind of thing. And I use them within the Sonata framework. And it's good to know that even MEF now is moving in that direction. It's fully leveraging this possibility that the way that the LSO standard has been put together. Having the marketplace where people can advertise this payload and make this payload up for review. And the other one, without talking too much about, was about the fact that, as we mentioned at the beginning of this chat, that standard has been designed around the standard traditional carrier Ethernet process. we know that the world now, with all the NAS, works in a very different way. It has a completely different set of requirements. So at that time, for us, that was a limitation. And that's why we've been forced, in a way, to build around the MEF APIs a number of proprietary API that work in a, I say, compatible and composable way with the MEF ones, because simply we wanted to do things that weren't possible with the Sonata release that was available at the time. But again, it's very good to know that there is a lot of new projects that are going in the NAS direction with MEF. The new releases, when I say the new, I say the releases after the one we adopted, they started covering all this kind of holes that were left. And so I really have a lot of confidence that in a very short time, we're going to have a robust standard that can really map the full NAS experience. And this is going to definitely encourage adoption, bringing the standard to a much wider audience.
Perfect. No, over to you, Lawrence. What would you say on this topic? And be sure to give a plug for Kraken.
Before we talk about the Kraken, I'm glad that Diego is actually exploring various payload. And are you contributing the payload to the market, the MEF marketplace or the libraries?
We are planning to do so.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Because we contributed one that is I think was for the cloud connectivity. It's not approved, but having it available at the marketplace helps helps to have more eyeballs on the payload, and hopefully as more people starts to use it and modify it, then it became over time hopefully it becomes a standard. So yeah, if you could contribute what you have, I think would be
No, absolutely
useful for us as well.
No, the idea is to upload them to make this payload available. But if anyone in the audience is interested in it, if you go on our on the connected API documentation, you will find in there that you will be able to use the Sonata envelope to order everything we actually sell as a company in the Ethernet and IP domain.
That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's one of the reason why I think MEF Sonata API is so as you highlighted, it's actually so well thought out. It's actually because it's actually really is more they design a framework and really less particular about what you're selling, and you can define it yourself. So it give you the flexibility on as things evolve and we're selling different things, then it doesn't restrict you from doing that, which I think is a very good thing.
That's awesome.
Okay, so relating to Kraken, so coming from an open source background, I understand the value of collaborations and also share standards. That's why at PCCW Global, we sought management approval to open source our MEF LSO adapter. So by doing this, we are hoping that we can help enable other partners to leverage the integration work that we have already done, helping them adopt a common standard much more easily. So for our case, the MEF LSO API adapters that we have developed play a crucial role in bridging the technical differences between the standards, in this case, the MEF Sonata API and the proprietary API that we have developed at Console Connect about 10 years ago. So the adapter itself acts as an overlay to existing proprietary API by translating the data formats and workflows into what was defined by the standard. So it is not intrusive solutions to pre-existing setups or integrations for ourselves and only any of our partners who wish to use the adapter in their environment. And also by sharing our MEF LSO adapter openly, we are hoping that not only you will help reducing duplications of effort across the ecosystem, but also fostering interoperability, faster onboarding, and better collaborations between our partners.
No, that's what it's all about. I love that. So, where can people find out about Kraken? You said it's open source, right? Is it on GitHub?
It is available on GitHub. So if you search, because it's open source project, it's GitHub will host it for free. And if you go to the MEF website, they have also embraced the solution as well. So if you go to the MEF website, if you search for the MEF LSO adapter, you'll be able to locate the information there as well.
Excellent. All right.
Personally, if I can just spend a couple of words on that, because there's something I really care. No, I don't want to, definitely don't need to explain to you how your adapter works. But I want to, as a person with history in open source software and a strong believer in open source software, I find two things that is important to say. First of all, absolutely right. In the scenario we've been describing earlier, where we got a lot of legacy systems, a lot of things are really hard to change, and a relatively small expertise in terms of software development, because yeah, there is not a lot of really deep software development knowledge in our industry relatively to the size of it. Having this kind of tools is extremely important. It makes the work more understandable, more sustainable, but even less intimidating. If you have an adapter, it's really an easier message to sell or to pass than no, we need to redo our entire backend, or we need to do an entire new platform in order to do business with this or that customer. And in terms of what you guys did at PCCW Console Connect, I found the fact that you made it open source a great thing. This is really shows, I think is the mindset that everyone should be having, because as we mentioned earlier, collaboration is absolutely important. We're having all the same problems. This is clearly showed that you are not minding your own business, but you really care about the growth, the entire ecosystem, and the fact that we can collaborate together. And what's best way of making what you're doing and put it out there for everyone to use, to contribute, to let you know where it works, where it doesn't. So that's, for me, it's absolutely brilliant. And I believe that many organizations should be doing that in terms of taking their own internal developments and put it out there.
I love the
There are no
saying,
secrets there. There are no state secret. There are no really
right?
incredible patent behind. It's literally about telling
Mhm.
people, let's work. We have the same problem. Let's work on this together.
Yeah, we're all in the same harbor. So that saying of a rising tide raises all boats in the harbor, I think it's very applicable in this case. All right. So we already talked about how, API adapters can play a role in bridging differences between platforms and third-party systems. I think one of the other things I wanted to get into is like, how can a network engineer get started in doing this? Maybe they have some experience, they've used other APIs. How can they leverage APIs to really self-manage and optimize their WAN services in particular? What do you guys think?
I think the recently our organizations, especially this year, I think beginning of this year actually, we our organization started to embrace the FinOps movement. So FinOps essentially is a framework that would allow us to be able to manage cloud consumptions, which a lot of organization is doing, moving their workload into the cloud. So the reason why I reference this is that leveraging API to self-manage fully aligns to one of the FinOps principles of leveraging dynamic pricing model in the cloud to optimize costs by aligning resources allocations with demands and usage pattern. So this involves using tools for real-time monitoring, auto-scaling, etc. So organizations like us, can scale on the back of network capacity during non-peak and scale up in line with demand. So that's actually how one of the key things that we see that about leveraging the APIs and aligning with the FinOps principles of dynamic pricing.
We get asked all the time, right? About, hey, can you just give me a service that just goes up and down
Correct.
along with my usage automatically, so I don't have to do anything?
Correct. Because yeah, there are organizations that are very localized and their workload may be just 9 to 5. There's very specific patterns on their consumptions. They have peak hours, they have non-peak. So being able to move up and down based on this sort of usage pattern, overall, it actually will save them a lot of money. And I think there are certain companies, if you search for it on the web, you can see that they actually have written papers around dynamic pricing using API. And they can see, you can see the trend and also the amount of consumptions over time and the money they save over time as well.
Nice. Diego, what would you add in this area?
Well, this is again, it's something you can take it as far as you like. At the moment, what Lawrence has said, it's absolutely true, and it's probably the very first use case achieving the true NAS behavior. I think it's the very first thing that needs to be achieved, and this can be done by the machines themselves, by someone requesting, but allowed to do this in an automated way, is definitely the first step. Then for what the future holds, or what is that you mentioned network engineers. What are we discussing here is more leaning on the commercial side, and it really just eats the engineer that they don't get an email or a case or a task that they need to modify that service. There is, as we were saying earlier, this is everything that at the moment is being done manually. This can be done in an automated way with no problem with the technology we have today. In terms of the network engineer, there is all aspects related to AI ops. So really moving our networking from being a reactive to a proactive network, having a network that is able to understand what's going on, analyze the root cause of any issue that there is, a network that is able to do self-healing. I think this is what a network engineer will probably be interested in. And then there is the whole topic about the so-called intent-based networking. So even I think another layer on top of that automation that really allows network engineer lives to be easier, and most important, to keep up with the increase of demand that we've been discussing at the beginning of this chat.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of a self-driving network and a self-healing network and a self-optimizing network has been around for quite some time now. But I'm curious if you have seen any examples of, and you can take out customer names or provider names, but if you could tell us a story, either of you could tell us a story of these things actually becoming real, like coming to fruition. How have you seen APIs applied in a way that, created significant cost savings or significant time savings? Again, kind of making the life easier for the network engineer, I think is very important. They're already overworked as is.
I would say from my experience personally, I never had, I didn't have experience with any extremely advanced system, but we definitely had use cases with some of our customers, with some of our partners that they go in that direction. And I'm talking about systems that are, at least from the reactive point of view, able to identify that something is not working as it should, or something is degrading, or even understand that maybe we got a plain maintenance operation somewhere, And this is going to cause a number of services to be affected. And in a way, automatically inside of our system, always via an internal API, raise all the support tickets for that. And then still via the API, notify all the customers that are going to be affected. There's going to be a ticket created, and by the API, they can monitor the ticket, monitor when it's going to happen, what's the status, is it being resolved, is it still open, all this in a fully automated way. So I think that's a good example of it. In my career, I collaborated in building systems to reroute network traffic depending on load, or having application-aware networks, so they know exactly what kind of application are running, and they're able to route traffic depending on what the application is. So maybe prioritize a streaming service against a backup, a regular backup, for example, or having routing done because that tomorrow there is a big version of my software coming up, and I want to request a bandwidth upgrade, or maybe to route my traffic in different nodes that are more high capacity. All this can be done in a fully automated way. Now, this kind of, for what euNetworks does, that is a bandwidth infrastructure company, the support ticket is totally applicable. There's a little bit on a higher level, but again, maybe you have a higher level organization that does all this calculation, but ultimately, in order to perform the changes they want on the network, a company like euNetworks, it needs to be able to have an interface to receive that kind of input. So those are the use cases I bumped into in my career. But as I said, I'm sure that if you give me 5 minutes more, I can come up with another few.
No, I love the MACD example in particular. I think that's just super relevant to everyone. Move, add, change, delete. That's something that almost everyone will need to do at some point. But yeah, Lawrence, what comes to mind for you? Any examples? And then maybe we come back to Diego for another one.
Yeah, we do. Well, yeah. So give Diego 5 minutes, or I'll talk for 5 minutes. So I am aware that we do have customers which provide on-demand platform-based services that benefits a lot with the APIs which allows us to offer them the elasticity of the bandwidth that they consume by API. So say for example, they can throttle the bandwidth during the peak hours, and at the same time reduce the bandwidth post midnight, during the weekdays, when the demand is low, or if there is a special event in the city, they may also adjust the bandwidth so that it matches the consumptions during the day. So these types of flexibilities provide a lot of convenience for our customers, and also give them a lot of predictability as well. Like they would be able to throttle up if they do need the capacity without actually going through all the manual steps or the manual ordering to support special events or out of band activities that was not planned or not part of the commercial contract. And if you've seen last year or the year before, we did also, I believe, our marketing team also have a video relating to how Console Connect was able to support esports activity in Hong Kong. I think that was a video that was published by our marketing team as well. That was also another example where the esports company was able to throttle the bandwidth on demand to support the number of audience watching the live streaming of the event, and also facilitating the streaming of the games itself, for during the competition. So
Mhm.
all these are done by API, which allows the bandwidth to be able to throttle dynamically on demand.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of differentiate between. I think it's been possible for many years now to kind of schedule bandwidth changes and kind of pre-plan them, but doing them based on demand very, very dynamically is a different story, isn't it? Then I think one of our last questions, I think we've touched on, intent-based networking, and I think, it may be worth mentioning things like AI and ML, or even edge computing use cases. Any of those kind of ring a bell for you guys? Comments, questions, concerns?
Well, if I can really summarize this in a couple of sentences, because there is so much that can be done. So all these new AI, machine learning technologies, what are those? Those are technologies that are really extremely good in processing and providing information out of a large amount of data. And this information can be used literally in any field. You can use it in the commercial, in the operation, in the security. You name the domain where you want to use this information. So again, APIs are a requirement. They create gateways for these machines to retrieve the information they need to learn things, to do their correlation. And so I see not, when I say correlation, I mean, it's very a dependency. APIs having this system, having system with these interfaces built in is an enabler for anything we want to do in this field.
So we're talking like predictive analytics, event
Anything,
correlation.
the API enables all this, literally getting the allowing machines to fetch data for different systems, for different domains, so they can use it for all the different fields and use cases we just mentioned.
The thing that comes to mind for me is like if a system needs to move data, it would have the ability to see that capability exists via API from a network like us or like euNetworks. Oh, Lawrence, anything you would add on this topic?
For edge compute, we do have a product offering called HSIM, where our SIMs are inserted into an IoT device, which connects directly into the edge of our network. All these are done through API, obviously, because if not, they will be very difficult to manage the scale of the deployment with all the SIMs deploying in various locations. So that's actually one of the key enabler that allows our HSIM product to be so successful in the field.
That is cool. Yeah, I know we have many customers that are, they have upwards of 100,000 SIMs out in the field. Okay.
Yeah, and the APIs allows them to be able to activate, deactivate, manage the SIM pools. Because if not, the management of the SIMs would be out
It'd be
of
a
control.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we should probably start thinking about landing this plane. Maybe one of the good questions to close us out is like, what's next for API innovation, especially as it relates to WAN networking? What do you think, Diego? If you had to make a prediction.
Well, I don't feel like making. I think everything we just discussed, over the last the half an hour or so, it's really been about the future. And so the way I see it, I don't want to sound underwhelming, but I don't see anything particularly disrupting in terms of business cases that is coming our way. Anything that is not being thought of. I see now to be an exceptional time. Over the last few years, 10, 20 years, there's been a lot of seed that I feel has been planted, like, covering the NAS, the monitoring, the security. Now with the AI also become more accessible and more to widespread, I feel the time is mature for this kind of solution to become the new normal in the industry. So the good news is that we have the ideas, and we are in a point now where we got all the technology we need to make it happen. So we just need the desire to get there and work towards it. That's the way I see it.
The seeds have been planted.
Next year.
Yeah, the seeds have been planted. They need to take root. They need to get, sunshine and water. Lawrence, what do you say? Do you disagree?
I will take this opportunity to have a shameless plug. So the next API innovations, I would refer that to the next major release for Krakens, and how we want to make it even much more easier for our partners to be able to deploy the solutions in their environment. So we are planning as one of the big features coming into the next major release by the end of the year, is to move away from is to be able to support the SaaS versions of Kraken. So right now, Kraken is actually an on-prem solution, so you have to install it in your environment, be able to set that up by yourself in your own environment. But in the next iterations of Kraken, we want to make it much even easier as well, where we will provide the SaaS implementations, where you can just go into the portal and be able to do all the configurations and mapping through the portal without any sort of installations or setting up in your on-prem environment. So that, at least in the near term, we hope that we will be able to help drive the adoptions of the standards across the industry, so that we can start to to be able to collaborate much more easily among the operators.
Love it. No, that's great progress. All right, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you both for being our guests here on this topic. Look forward to chatting with you again. Thank you.
Well,
Bye now.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trent. Bye-bye.